Hello, everyone. Welcome to Off the Record, a special Project Offbeat series specifically catered for a casual conversation with our guest. Besides the career, diba, we want to get to know our guest, for who they are as a person. Diba? There's a lot of questions that we are streaming from different people who just wants to get to know our guest more, and this is the portion for it. If you haven't listened to the episode on Pepe Diokno's path first on being a film director, we highly suggest you to start there first. In today's segment, we are joined by Direk Pepe Diokno. Hi, Direk.
Hi, Lance. Hi, Matthew.
Awesome. So, Direk, let's start off the record with this portion called The Big Questions. And it's presented by a sponsor, Narrowwood and Watches. Direk, the very first question that I have for you, there's a lot of opinions right now about what the MMFF can be. Diba? Many are for it, many are against it. Diba? And recent news we have seen that Vice and Coco is making a comeback this year. Diba? For you, what do you think of the MMFF as it is right now? And do you think that anything needs to be changed in the way it is set up?
That's a big question. I think I'm gonna get into a lot of trouble for what I'm gonna say. Ako, it's a Christmas festival, and during Christmas time, the audience is looking for something that the whole family can appreciate. Mahal
Sure.
ang ticket sa sinehan. So they want to be able to watch a film that Lolo and Lola will enjoy just as much as Ate and Kuya and Bunso and Mom and Dad. So that's why the MMFF has the kind of films that it does, which are fun, family-packed sort of films. So I have really no problem with that. I think for me, my issue becomes if these films are my issue is when the films are parang so sloppily or badly made na parang they're so badly made that after the Christmas season everybody will just forget about it. Because a good film, even if it's for the entire family, if a film is good, then it can be appreciated for a
Beautiful.
very long time. And the reason I think that a lot of the MMFF films are not so well made, for lack of a better word, is because napaka rushed na mga timelines.
Talaga?
They kasi you submit a script first to MMFF, and then if they approve your script or if they choose, saka lang tataya yung producer to fund the film. Kasi a producer would not put in money if he's not sure na hindi siya papalabas as during MMFF.
Yeah.
MMFF is lucrative. So sana lang the process allowed for longer production of films, or
Exactly.
sana they only chose finished films, or as I mentioned in the other podcast, wala kasi tayong protection for our films. Wala tayong quota. Other countries do. And this 2 weeks or 1 week of MMFF, 1.5 or something like that, is the only protection that we have against Hollywood films or others. So
Exactly.
sayang lang siya. I think it does serve a purpose, but there's a way that we can do it better.
Yeah. Direk, you mentioned earlier na parang nakakalimutan agad siya pagkatapos ng Pasko. Do you think that MMFF should also enter VODs or streaming platforms para ma-enjoy ulit siya ng mga tao in a legal manner kaysa, pumunta sa mga iba-ibang pirated sites?
Yeah, I think so. Pero malaking discussion rin to even with Hollywood films na parang sasabay mo ba siya with sasabay mo ba yung theatrical with the streaming? Kasi some films na sabay yung theatrical and streaming, hindi kumita at all. People would stream or just pirate even though sabay. So there was a pushback in the later part of the pandemic. They stopped releasing films ng sabay. Sometimes now the bigger films, they're only releasing in cinemas first and then only weeks or months later dun sa movie house. So kumikita sila doon. I think Top Gun grossed like $1 billion already with that same strategy.
Grabe.
So yun, it's a big discussion actually. Nobody knows for sure talaga.
I want to ask about like the state of Filipino films in the international scene. So I've noticed how a lot of like the best Filipino films that have garnered international acclaim, yung mga accolades, etc., they usually revolve around a lot of the gritty subject matter. So obviously poverty, corruption, violence, drug trafficking, politics, etc. As a director, now feel free to agree or disagree. No, do you think that this theme is kind of overdone, or would you encourage Filipino filmmakers to continue focusing on these subject matter or these themes? Yeah.
I think parang I would sort of argue that if you guys have seen Parasite,
Yeah.
I think Parasite was also about a poor family. It was also about their poverty. It was very clearly about the divide between rich and poor. It was about yung class divide in Korea and that gap between the two classes. It was a commentary, a satire actually about the rich and also about the poor. So I wouldn't say na parang it's really about the subject matter that needs to change. I think when people or audiences tend to think na it's all the same or it's all about poverty, it's really more about the treatment of the subject matter. Maybe you're right. I think there is a point to be made na parang pare-pareho yung treatment ng lahat. Na baka we can find another way to explore that subject matter. But going back na to that subject matter, I think yun talaga yung kwento natin as a country. Even just to extrapolate even more, the reason why Parasite worked so much, I think, is because it was universal. Yung struggle between rich and poor, yung gap na yun, it's universal. In the capitalist world that we live in, yan talaga yung conflict that arises in many societies. So I would never actually stop or actually encourage. I'm also thinking to myself how I can explore yung ganong subject matter. But at the same time, finding a different way to treat it. I think baka napupuno nga talaga tayo sa, okay, we're exploring poverty, we're exploring society, pero puro social realist, a day in the slice of life yung nakikita natin na maybe
100%.
I say maybe there's a point to be made talaga na napapagod yung mga tao doon. And there is a point to be made also na yung mga pumipili for film festivals, they tend to reinforce that.
Oh, actually.
I would say kasi selecting a film is really it's a subjective thing. It's really up to their taste and sometimes hindi nila namamalayan yun.
Right. No, I mean that's a fair insight, because how I wanted to tackle this question, and I guess the insight that I wanted to bring up after this was, is there like a trope of Filipino filmmakers that intentionally look or focus their eye on the slums just so that they can potentially have international acclaim, diba? In the international stage? I think a really good film is the Babae sa Septic Tank. They have this very humorous view on filmmakers who do this particular thing to highlight poverty so that they can travel and win prizes and whatnot. Is that very real in the industry, or is there some truth to it?
I don't want to judge. I don't know. I don't know.
Hey, that's
Okay
a
lang,
fair
okay
reaction.
lang.
That's a fair reaction. That's a fair reaction.
That's the reaction you wanted.
Boss, I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, sige, move tayo sa next. Pepe, everyone, we want to give Filipino films and movies a chance, no? Pero lagi na lang may mga naka-imprint sa mga minds ng mga tao na specific Filipino film, no? Can you name 2 to 3 of those films, no, that you wished hindi naman siya mawawala totally, but sana mas mabawasan yung impression sa mind ng tao ng film na yun, para mabigyan naman niya ng chance yung iba, 'di ba, na manood. Like for example, when you think anime, you think Naruto agad, 'di ba? When you think K-pop, you think most likely yung F4 or whatnot, 'di ba?
What F4?
Ay, sorry. Taiwanese pala yun, no? But you get me, right? So, sa Filipino films, meron ka bang wish na sana bumaba yung impression ng mga tao on that para they give other films a chance?
Yes, I wish that when you say the word indie, most people would not think bold or sex.
Yeah.
Oo nga. Oo nga. Oo nga, no. Bakit na-establish yun, Direk?
There was a time, actually, I think early 2000s, na censorship kasi was stricter then. They were much stricter in terms of pornography. So parang there used to be like lines you couldn't cross, like bawal yung mga pumping scenes, quote unquote, or bawal full frontal, things like that. And then to parang skirt that yung mga censors, kasi nga kung censored yung pelikula mo, you couldn't show it in movie houses. But how do you make money? Question mark. They would show the films at UP kasi UP is a low
Oh.
quote unquote. Then they would just call it indie to give it an air of legitimacy or something. So I guess that's where it came from. And technically naman kasi those films with sexual content, they were technically indie kasi they were not produced naman by a big studio. But yun nga lang, naging part na ng branding ng indie or naging connotation na ng indie is bold.
So parang madidisappoint yung tao kung wala.
Exactly. And I'm not, I'm not looking down or saying that we shouldn't produce those kinds of films. Pero sa akin na kasi, ang ibang-iba kasi talaga yung ibig talaga sabihin ng indie versus that connotation of
Right, yeah.
sex. What indie is supposed to mean is that it was not produced by a big studio, which means it takes more risks.
Exactly.
It tackles topics that aren't usually tackled.
Exactly.
It's a different kind of movie. Yeah.
Pepe, say in a world na, ayun, nabawasan na nga impression, can you recommend the first 2 to 3 films na they give it a go so that we give Filipino films a better light? Any film in your mind?
Ako, I would go back to yung mga first and second golden age of Philippine cinema. Watch Himala.
Himala.
By Lino Broca with Nora Honor. Watch Oro Plata Mata by Pepe Galiaga. Watch Genghis Khan by
Genghis Khan, of course.
These are all restored. I think some of them are available. You can restored meaning kasi dati we didn't really archive, we didn't really preserve our films. So nabulok talaga so many of these pictures. Now we had to go abroad but to look for clean copies. And then those clean copies were digitized and actually meticulously cleaned up frame by frame. So those 3 films I mentioned have been restored. They're available to buy or stream. They might even be on YouTube. Go watch them. Kasi when I watched them, I was so impressed. Genghis Khan, for example, which was made in 1954, was like, it's such a big production na parang imagine it as like a Marvel movie of that era.
Wow.
He made a lot of money, traveled around the world. It was about Genghis Khan, a Mongolian leader, so not even about a Filipino character. So we were making films like that. Yeah, watch them and see how artistic, how beautiful the stories are, ang taas ng production value. And then you'll realize na we do come from a tradition of making good movies. And then hopefully after seeing that, you'll give others or more contemporary ones a chance.
Thank you. Thank you, Pepe.
So I promised my friend who I talk a lot about film analysis with to ask this question. No? So we both agree that like films are inherently political. So they usually have a agenda or message that they want to evoke, no? And it's good because, filmmakers are how do you say, like they resist the status quo to some point. They always try to show their audience something, an angle of reality that's not previously discussed. But in the case of some recent filmmakers, let's just say who support the present government or present administration a lot, they turn this kind of resisting the status quo concept on its head with their recent films. I think you already know, very propagandish, very pushing revisionist history. In your opinion, is that what a filmmaker is? Someone who resists the status quo even to the extreme ends, or is that just an aberration too?
Parang it's really hard to generalize it. But ganito. So I won't name names, but there's a filmmaker who claims that he or she, sige, I'll lump them in together. There are filmmakers who claim that they are telling the truth, that they want to set the record straight, quote unquote.
Yep.
And then they filmed a scene of people with burning pitchforks storming Malacanang, allegedly during the 86 revolution. And if you go to history and you see the photos that actually took place in 86, you won't see yung mga burning pitchforks or yung mga whatever those burning stuff were. So yun, you guys, the viewers actually should now decide, are these filmmakers telling the truth, or are they just, for lack of a better word, bullshit? And if they're bullshit, then let's treat them like bullshit. That's it.
Just like a quick follow-up. How would you say this situation is different from a film like Inglorious Bastards, where they do revise history in some way or form?
That's the thing. It goes back to marketing. From the onset, Quentin Tarantino said this is an alternate history.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
What these guys are saying is that we're setting the record straight. This is what actually happened. So there's a lie. One of them is still telling the truth, and the other one is obviously lying, obviously spreading bullshit. So,
Grabe. Actually, that makes me think, no? Parang when you read those headlines, parang we're telling the truth, or parang this is the reality that happened. Parang it catches your attention, 'di ba? Agad-agad 'di ba? Pero yung pala may angle din sila. Di ba?
It's like that. Parang with Quentin Tarantino and Inglourious Bastards, you sort of understand why he would want to make an alternate history, because so many people died in the Holocaust. Parang you want to just imagine, what if the opposite happened and they were able to, diba? Did they kill Hitler at the end?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, I'm so sorry.
Diba? Ito, yung isa na parang when you realize now, why did they have to portray it that way? Why did they have to lie about what happened? What's the motivation behind it? It kind of raises more questions.
Yeah. Agad-agad pa, no? Parang biglang, filming na agad right after, I think that was June, no? Parang makes you think. Okay, here's my last question, Pepe. Without shame, me and Matt voted for Attorney Chel this elections, and I don't know, man. You just look into it in a most common sense, logical manner. You see this guy with the greatest mind, no, having done so many things, right? And yet he's still lost, no. At least from your point of view, Pepe, what could he have done better, or bakit kaya siya natalo, no? Saan tayo nagkulang?
I would actually say na there's a lot of things that could have been done, not just for my dad, but also for VP Lenny, and for the slate, and for the people that we believe in. But ganito, I'll talk about my dad first, and then maybe the Sina VP. Although I wasn't involved, because I was involved with my dad's campaign, but I wasn't involved in Sina VP's campaign. But with my dad specifically, he kasi is not an artista. He is not a member of a political dynasty. So when he ran in 2019, his awareness level was literally, I think, around 4 or 5%.
Yep.
Nobody knew him, and even though we were starting from that small percentage of awareness, he was able to still get 6 million votes the first time he ran. And then naggulat na lang kami that from that single digit, he was up to, I think, 70% awareness after that election. And then that's where we began in this cycle. And we didn't have money actually to to run ads. Some of the other senatorial candidates, some of the presidential candidates, they spent billions on their TV campaigns, on their on the ground, on their social media, millions on these things. Kami, we really didn't have that much money. Na actually, the first time we ran in 2019, we were able to have ads in the last TV ads in the last 3 weeks. At this time around, we didn't have, maybe because of the pandemic and nobody was really donating. We didn't have those commercials, but even then, we were able to. My dad was able to get 10 million votes, so plus four. So parang there's that. It was, I think, for given the resources talaga, it was a very good showing. What we've been able to do, what you guys and the volunteers have been able to do, is a really great thing. So going to Sina VP Lenny lang, who, I was also so heartbroken when she didn't make it. But if you look at the numbers, kasi in July 2019, before she declared she was going to run, the surveys said that she was down to a preference of single digit na lang also, which meant that if in 2016, 14 million people voted for her, 14.4, I think, 14.4, I'm getting my numbers right, 14.4 million people voted for her. By June 2021, I'm so sorry, I'm getting my dates. Okay. So in 2016, 14.4 million people voted for VP Lenny.
Yeah.
By 2021, before she declared, she was down to only 4 million voters. So 10 million yung nabawas sa kanya. That's because some others did not stop dun sa paninira sa kanya. They were really pulling her down, spreading so many fake news. And they were doing that for 5 years. Kaya bumaba. But what happened? After she declared, so many volunteers came in. It was a really parang groundswell effort. From only 4 million votes, tumaas uli siya to 14.8. I think she ended up with 14.8. So imagine, in the span of just a few months, less than a year, and you guys have worked in marketing, so you know how long it takes to actually market a product, right?
Yeah.
In the span of just a few months, na-reverse lahat ng damage that was inflicted by the other side or sides. So nag-work talaga yung volunteer efforts. Nag-work talaga siya. Imagine all the millions that they spent to pull her down, na-reverse in a span of a few months for little money, really. If only there was some more time nga talaga, but so I would say na parang the efforts that we have done are really great, valiant efforts, because we are, we really believe in the people that we believe in. So not to lose heart, there's nothing wrong that we did maybe, or we just need to keep working. And by keep working, I don't just mean campaigning, but also parang going out and reaching out to people and helping the people that we do want to help.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Pepe. I think everyone needed to hear that some way or the other, right? Kala natin parang sayang na yung effort, but you know what? It's one election, but there's so much things that we can do still right after.
Yeah. And sana we can find more politicians, more leaders like that, and then support them from the time that they are running as concejal, running as mayor. One of the reasons I moved to Pasig is to vote for Mayor Vico.
He's a sure win.
And then let's support them, and it's never leave their side, really.
I guess it's very easy to say at this point, like, what your favorite movies are from the first half of this year. For example, one of my favorite movies is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, I love that movie. But I think a more interesting question to ask you is, do you have a movie that's received a lot of hate, but it's one that you absolutely love?
Ooh, let me check my list. I have a list there.
Oh, you have a list.
I have a list of favorite films, and then I go back.
So it's more than one. So it's more than one meaning.
Please share your list to us, Pepe. Para ano kami.
Ano ba? Cloud Atlas, weird. It got a lot of bad reviews, but I like it. I really like in this list. I really like the Little Women, although like received Little Women
Mm.
2020 that received
Mm.
mixed reviews.
Mm.
One of my favorite films that I think is underrated is Mission Impossible Fallout. I can watch that
Ah,
almost. Yeah.
that's underrated for people?
I think,
Really? Okay.
but yeah, it's listed as yeah one of my favorite films. Really, yun.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Perfect, perfect.
That ibang genre yun na, no? Iba-iba from ano. Marami talaga siyang listahan on it, no? Yeah. Anyways, that's about it. Thanks Pepe for joining us on Off the Record. If you like their special series, follow as well in Facebook, IG, LinkedIn, and YouTube for exclusive content. That's at the Project Offbeat. If you want to learn more from our guest, you can reach Pepe Diokno on IG, and of course, his website is all over in Google. See you again, and here's to the off-beaten path. Thanks, guys.